Yesterday, I got 25 perfect clears in 22 minutes and 49 seconds. This is with a 4 history randomizer, which is a little bit different from 7 bag randomizer. And this is a lesson in freestyling perfect clears. It's a tied KOS, or King of Stackers world record, with Cosine, probably one of the best perfect clearers out there. The number of PCs performed with 250 pieces. And it's also second in the world for time taken. I ended up taking like 5 more minutes more. Well, 5 more minutes, yeah. But I did achieve the 25 perfect clears with 245 pieces. So a little bit of background information. 4 history randomizer is different from 7 bag randomizer. It's based on a 6 reroll 4 history randomizer, meaning that PCs won't loop after the 7th one, like in 7 bag. You cannot guarantee that pieces will appear like you can for 7 bag. But I'm going to be using a lot of concepts which you can still apply to finding PCs in 7 bag. King of Stackers is also gravityless and has 6 piece previews, which makes looking ahead for these perfect clears a bit nicer. So my general strat is to place a few pieces, look at the board state for a while, and then determine if a perfect clear is possible. And I guess this will sort of show the importance of well-placed pieces. And here's a link to the actual replay, but it's already in the video, so you shouldn't have to refer to that. It'll be in the description. So for first perfect clear, I did this SC reduction, which you'll be seeing quite a bit. Like if you put like a Z here, you'll clear this line and then there's space to skim or spin this S in here. So the way I saw this one, there's like a 3x4 rectangle here. And then I wanted to put this sort of shape somewhere in the solution. And I saw that if I put like T and L like this will like skim this line, which will give space to put Z and S here. And you can sort of compare this to this gray system solution, where you have 2 T pieces vertically, and then you have space for your Z and S. So after making this 3x4 rectangle, I put this I piece here, O here, which allowed this row to get skimmed, and this would also allow this J piece to fit in. And then there's sort of this place for Z and S to go. The second perfect clear, I did a very similar thing. You probably already had noticed this, but a PCO is basically the same shape as a 2x4 rectangle attached to a C piece. So you can like sort of see it's got the same concept where you can just put Z and S in, and this is just a 3x4 rectangle that you can make with L, L, and O. These two are not particularly interesting because I think you don't need very much perfect clear knowledge. I started by making this square on the left, which IJLO, but the pieces after that, the pieces that came after that were pretty nice, which could be made into this 5x4, and then there's space for another eyepiece. So that's the third perfect clear. And because I saw the opportunity to do so, I did take this 2-line perfect clear. With 7 bag, this would have mattered because it would have shifted which perfect clear I'm at. But because it's not 7 bag, I thought it wouldn't affect anything. And I don't think it really did. Anyway, for this 5th perfect clear, I did a TZ reduction, which is a little bit different. Notice how, well, I started with this perfect clear shape, or here, and then I filled in this area with IOO. Now, if I put L and Z here, you sort of left with this area. I don't know how to describe this, but it leaves space for this ZT shape, and this is also applicable if you have TS. You'll just switch which way they're around. This is sort of like an instinctive thing, like you'll pick this up after messing around with perfect clears for a while, but TZ is a very common shape to be reducing to. It is a funny perfect clear because, well, it's very symmetric. Yeah. You don't need too much perfect clear foresight to see this one. And I couldn't get a two-liner from this, even though these are like the perfect pieces to get them. But that's okay. For the 7th perfect clear, this is a very symmetric one. My line of thought for this was, I had a lot of T, S, and Z's, so I wanted to make like sort of 2 PCO sort of shapes. And there's sort of like space for an eyepiece to go here. And then if you skim this row, there's a space for an O to go. So, and we also had O and J, which will fit into a 2x4 rectangle if you place them like this. This is quite a tricky one to find, and I'm honestly sort of surprised I saw this one. So I started off with this PCO shape, and then when you don't know what to do with like O pieces or like L pieces, usually I just shove them to the side and then hope it will be okay. So with this placed already, I saw I had Z and S, so I need to get rid of that some way. And then I also had L, well, I had 2 L pieces and a J. So after looking at this solution for quite a while, I decided that if I skim this row with Z and S, this would leave the perfect space for to spin an L in here and then a J in here. And to get this Z piece to be high enough, you have to put an L piece here. So it worked out pretty well. Okay, so this one requires you to sort of look ahead into your piece queue. So I started off with JSO on the left. So that's not a bad start for a PC. I saw both Z and S in the piece queue, which meant I was going to probably do a similar thing to that SZ reduction, except this time it's sort of like upside down. And I also saw that if I skim this row, there's sort of like perfect space for all of the other pieces. So skimming this row with Z and I would leave space for this. And this is quite a versatile shape because you can switch out this JO for a bunch of piece combinations. Like you can put JZ, OL, and then yeah. So this sort of almost square is a good thing to be looking out for when you're making PCs. This is a pretty basic one. This is just making, well, 2 different types of rectangles, a 4x4, well, I guess it's square. So this one's made with JSSJ, and then this one's made with OZLZO, OLZLO, sorry. And there's space for an eyepiece, so I don't know. That's probably the best explanation for it. If you're familiar with freestyling PCs, like even with 7-bag, you're going to be making a lot of these rectangles to fill in space, and then you're left with a smaller area to work with, and because it's a smaller area to work with, it's easier to find said PCs. This one's a pseudo-PCO. Here we have this 5x4 rectangle. It is using 2 T's, but because it's 7-bag, it doesn't matter as much. And then this remaining area could be solved just like a normal perfect clear opener. So just put I here, spin this S in, then J, I. It's sort of nasty because there's no T pieces. I did say that it probably wouldn't matter too much that I used quite a few T pieces in the last solution, but I'm not like super familiar with how for history randomizer works, so I just didn't have to use the T piece in the solution. I put ZJ here, which might have been a mistake, because like you definitely depending on an L here. I did see there's this shape over here, which is pretty common when you're freestyling PCs. you'll notice that there's sort of a space to put that two-piece combination, this almost square. But instead of doing that, I saw that I had ZZL into piece Q, which will also fill in this shape, but you'll be having like an extra row filled in here. So it's sort of like a 3x4 and a 7x4, but I don't know if that's the best way to visualize it. This is a gray system. This 6x4, well, any 6x4 is called a gray system. Rectangle, I don't know. I'm not sure there's a name for it. With the piece Q, I could have made this shape, which is an IJSZ, and this is quite a useful shape when you're doing 7-bag PCs. They typically have like more than 90% chance to perfect clear, and there was a solution using all the same pieces, so I'm not sure why I didn't just go for that. But anyway, I just put SJ over here and saw that I had the right pieces to put in. I had the right pieces to solve this 4x4 square, and then I had the right pieces to also fill in the rest of the gray system. So it was just a matter of putting them in the right order, and then it worked. Okay, this is a pretty common shape you'll see with 7-bag PCs again. So this IJSZ or ILSZ, these all make the same shape. I'm not sure if it's super necessary to know multiple ways of constructing this, but this is a very common start for perfect clears. And then I guess all of these fit in pretty logically. I just had a 3x4 rectangle on the right, and then this remaining space was just filled in with L, Z, and S. It's sort of combination of a few PC solutions. You can treat this 6x4 as a gray system 6x4 and just fill in the rest as if it was a gray system. But here, I also made this perfect clear shape, and then I can fill in the rest of this 6x4 with SJI. So, because this area fills the 6x4, there's enough space to do this gray system solution. I did not use my pieces very well in this one. I used 4 T pieces, which is something you never want to do in like 7-bag perfect clearing. You should never use more than 2 T pieces in a 7-bag solution, because then you're going to be left with pretty bad pieces. So I made a 3x4 with TTL on the right, and just as a general thing with 7-bag solutions, don't use 2 T pieces in a rectangle. It's almost never worth it. And then this shape here, I didn't outline this super well, but going back to this slide, you can make the same shape as this without the eyepiece with S, T, and T. And I just spun this eye in here and then just filled in the rest normally. And because I used all of the T pieces, I think, I got left with these. And if you see a lot of O, S, and Z pieces in your piece queue, you're probably screwed. However, there was a solution to this. I made a 3x4 because it's sort of like a filler when you don't know what to do. And then there's, if you have 2 S's or 2 Z's, or how do I describe this? If you have 2 S's and 1 Z, or 2 Z's and 1 S, there's probably a good chance that you can make a 5x4 or a 7x4 rectangle. So, after experimenting with it a while, I did bring out a piece of paper to try work this out. I saw that I could make this rectangle. And yeah, this is sort of like a bad set of pieces to work with. And the next set of pieces were also pretty bad. Actually, this exact 8x4 rectangle from here to here is copied verbatim. Except I didn't see it in the same way. Like, I didn't actually notice that these two solutions were almost exactly the same until today. Um, but yeah, I saw this more as this sort of shape, which you might be familiar if you've learnt second PC shapes. So this, and then this sort of fills the rest of it in. And then if you skim this T here, you get space to put this J piece. So, yeah. Okay, here's the 19th one, and this is sort of a pseudo-PCO. You can make... Oh, sorry. My voice just died. You can make this shape in a lot of ways. They'll all involve a T-piece because you're creating parity. But here you have, like, this is a standard TSC. If you, like, put the T-piece on top of S or Z, you sort of, like, have space for an I-piece. And then, like, any combination of a 2x4 with a T-piece. This one's pretty common, and this one's a bit less common, but it's useful if you have an excess of O pieces. And basically, I just made a 3x4 on the left, made this PCO shape, put Z here and T on top to make, like, it's sort of like a PCO shape, but it's missing, like, a line. And then there's this SZ reduction that we saw earlier. So this is a difficult one to describe how I did. Basically, again, using the concept that this is just a 2x4 with a T-piece to attach to it. If you skim this row, you can put a J-piece here. And I saw that I had another J-piece in the queue, so I did the same thing here. And then this, when skimmed, leaves this one Mino here, and you have this almost square shape again, where you can put S and L. So this all worked out pretty nicely. This one's another SD reduction, sort of using a third PC shape. If you've learnt the third PC shape when you have an extra Z piece or an S piece, you'll be familiar with this shape. So I basically did the same thing, except the I replaced this ZL with two T's. And then if you fill in this left rectangle with OO, and then put L here, you get the same SC reduction. So that's good to know. This is a pseudo-ILSZ. So this shape is the exact same as this shape. So I just did that. And then I just sort of intuitively filled in the rest. That's not very helpful, I guess, but like, I put L here, and then O, which clears this bottom line. Then, I think the piece order was I had to put J here, then I had to spin this L into place, and then I had to put this S piece. And again, this is sort of like another pseudo-PCO. I put this S here, oh no, L here, which was probably a mistake, because I could have just made the 3x4 rectangle and putting L like this, and then S, and then J like that. But this is the order I did it in, and it worked out. This required me to have, skim this second row, so I had to put like this TI sort of thing. And then typically when you have this sort of thing, you're gonna need like two S pieces to fill this in. But the space formed by two S pieces can be filled in with two I pieces as well. So that's what I ended up doing. And then the rest is filled in with two Z pieces. And this is also a pseudo-PCO. This thing, so LTZZ, creates the same jagged thing. I don't know how else to describe it, but it makes the same jagged shape, and then I just filled in the rest like a normal PCO. And then the last PC that I did in the run shows the importance of piece awareness. So I made this 3x4 rectangle, and the the piece Q was ITLOJIS. So the T piece is not going to be of any use because we're going to be making stack parity. So we have to somehow incorporate two S pieces into our 7x4 rectangle. If you place IJO like this, you sort of have a space where like an S piece can fit in nicely. So that's what I did. And then the rest of it was like pretty normally filled. There's space for this almost square and then a place for an eyepiece. And because I got a 2-line PC like really early on, I was left with 5 pieces. And I could not make a 2-line PC with those 5 pieces, so I just placed them. And for anyone who cares, here's a potential 26 PC solution if I had more than 5 pieces to work with at the end. So, what did we learn? We learned that S and Z pieces suck. Just try know a bunch of ways of handling them, like making a rectangle, or doing that SZ reduction thing that I did for quite a bit of these solutions. And I guess that's the main lesson. Just know how to use your pieces. Look ahead into your piece queue, especially if you have especially if you don't have gravity to deal with. You're given all the time in the world to figure this out. Alright, thanks for watching.